The dust kicked up in small clouds as Dr. Amanda Foster walked through the dead city. Her boots crunched on broken glass and crumbled stone. The tall buildings around her reached toward the empty sky like fingers of a giant skeleton. Once, this place had been alive with millions of people. Now it was just another graveyard. Amanda stopped and looked up at a massive tower that twisted into spirals. The metal still shone silver in the alien sun, even after who knows how many years. She pulled out her scanner and pointed it at the structure. The numbers on the screen made her shake her head in wonder. "Captain Morris, you need to see this," she said into her radio. "What did you find, Doc?" Captain Jake Morris answered from the ship above. "This building is over 3,000 years old, but the metal is still perfect. These people had technology we can barely understand today." Amanda walked deeper into the city center. Every step told the same story she had seen on 6 other worlds. Advanced buildings, perfect roads, beautiful art carved into walls, and then nothing. No bodies, no signs of war, no evidence of disease or natural disaster. The people had just vanished. She reached what looked like the main plaza. In the center stood a statue of a creature she had never seen before. It had 4 arms, 2 heads, and skin that looked like it was made of crystal. The statue was holding what might have been a book or tablet above its heads. Amanda could see writing carved into the base, but the symbols meant nothing to her. "Lisa, are you getting this?" Amanda asked. Lieutenant Lisa Wright was back on the ship, monitoring all the data from Amanda's equipment. "I'm seeing everything, Doc. That writing looks similar to what we found on Kepler 438b. Another connection," Amanda said quietly. She had been studying dead civilizations for 15 years, and the pattern was always the same. Different species, different planets, different technologies, but they all ended the same way. Complete extinction with no clear cause. Amanda continued walking through the empty streets. She passed what looked like shops with their windows still intact. Inside, she could see shelves still holding items that might have been food or tools. Or art. It was as if everyone had simply walked away one day and never came back. Her scanner beeped. There was something electronic still working nearby. Amanda followed the signal down a side street to a building that looked different from the others. It was smaller and had no windows. The door was made of the same silver metal as the tower, and it was slightly open. Amanda pushed the door wider and stepped inside. The room was dark, but her flashlight showed walls covered with screens and panels. In the center was a chair facing the largest screen. As soon as Amanda entered, the screens began to glow. "Captain, I think I found some kind of control room," she said into her radio. "Be careful, Doc. We don't know what kind of security systems they might have had." The main screen flickered and showed symbols scrolling past. Amanda couldn't read them, but she could tell they were some kind of records or logs. She pulled out her data recorder and began copying everything. As the symbols continued to scroll, Amanda noticed something that made her heart beat faster. Some of the symbols were repeating in a pattern. She had seen this same pattern on 3 other dead worlds, always in the final records, always just before the civilization disappeared. "Lisa, are you seeing this pattern in the symbols?" "Yes." "Doc, it's the same sequence we found in the Rigel system and on Proxima 7. What do you think it means?" Amanda watched the symbols for several more minutes. Then the screen changed. Instead of symbols, it showed what looked like a star map. Points of light appeared and disappeared across the display. Some points flashed red, others turned black. "Captain, I think this is showing the history of this sector. The red points might be civilizations that are dying, and the black ones are already dead." Captain Jake Morris had been listening to everything from the bridge of the New Horizon. He was looking at his own star charts, comparing them to what Amanda was describing. What he saw made him feel cold. Doc, according to our records, every black point you're seeing matches the location of a dead world we found. And the red points match systems where we've detected radio signals that suddenly stopped. Amanda stared at the screen. The pattern was clear now. Across this entire region of space, civilizations had been dying in a specific order, not randomly. Not from some natural disaster. Something had been moving from system to system, ending each civilization before moving on to the next. The screen changed again. This time it showed text and symbols that Amanda was starting to recognize. At the bottom of the message, in letters that made her hands shake, were symbols that looked almost like words she knew. Lisa, can you run these symbols through the translation program? Already on it, Doc. The computer is finding matches with the other Dead World records. Give me a minute. Amanda waited, staring at the screen. The message seemed urgent, like a warning. The way it was displayed reminded her of emergency broadcasts. Doc, I've got a partial translation. It's not perfect, but I think the message is saying something about a protocol. And at the end, there are symbols that translate to something, like Terra and human. Amanda felt her blood turn to ice. Terra was an old word for Earth, and human meant her own species. Captain, I think we need to get back to the ship right now. What's wrong, Doc? I think these people knew about us. About humans. And I think whatever happened to them, we might have been involved. Amanda quickly gathered her equipment and ran back through the dead city to the landing site. Her mind was racing with questions. How could these ancient aliens have known about humans? Earth had only been exploring space for a few hundred years, but these civilizations had died thousands of years ago. As the shuttle lifted off from the dead world, Amanda looked down at the empty city one more time. Somewhere in those records was the truth about what had happened here, and if her suspicions were right, it was a truth that would change everything humans thought they knew about themselves. Captain Jake Morris set course for Earth. They had 6 dead worlds worth of data to analyze, and now they had evidence that all of these extinctions might be connected to humanity somehow. The question was how, and more importantly, why. The New Horizon jumped to faster than light speed, carrying its crew toward answers that would shake the foundation of human civilization. Professor Daniel Kane stood in front of the biggest screen in the Xenological Institute. Behind him sat 200 of Earth's top scientists, military leaders, and government officials. The data from 7 dead worlds was displayed in charts and graphs that painted a picture no one wanted to believe. Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel began, his voice steady despite the nervous feeling in his stomach. What I'm about to show you will change how we think about humanity's place in the galaxy. He clicked his remote, and the screen showed a timeline spanning 3,000 years. Red dots marked the locations and dates of extinct civilizations. At first glance, they seemed random, but Daniel had spent months finding the pattern. Each of these civilizations was advanced. They had space travel, powerful weapons, and technology that we still don't understand. Yet they all disappeared completely. No survivors. No refugee fleets. Nothing. Admiral Patricia Stone leaned forward in her seat. She had commanded Earth's space forces for 20 years and had never heard of any of these civilizations. Professor, our records show no contact with any of these species. How do we know they ever existed? Daniel clicked to the next slide. Because they all left records about us. The room went silent. Daniel could hear people shifting in their seats. He knew this was hard to accept, but the evidence was clear. The translation work has taken months, but the pattern is consistent. In their final years, each civilization encountered humans. They describe us using different names, but the descriptions match. They call us the persistent ones, the endless, and those who never forget. Dr. Kevin Ross, who had been studying military history for 30 years, stood up. Professor, that's impossible. 3,000 years ago, humans were barely using metal tools. We didn't have space travel until 500 years ago. Daniel nodded. That's what our official history says. But I found something in the deep. Archives that changes everything. The screen showed old Earth documents that looked like they had been buried for centuries. The writing was in ancient human languages that few people could still read. These records were hidden in the Vatican. Archives, the Library of Alexandria backup files, and the Chinese imperial records. They all tell the same story. Humanity achieved space travel over 4,000 years ago. But something happened that made us hide this fact from ourselves. Admiral Stone stood up, her face pale. Professor, are you saying that humans have been in space for 4,000 years, and we somehow forgot? Not forgot. Chose to forget. The records suggest that early human space exploration led to conflicts that were so terrible, humanity decided to start over. We returned to Earth, destroyed most evidence of our spacefaring past, and began again. Daniel clicked to show translated. Alien records. The text was hard to read, but the fear in the words was clear. This is from the Zephyrian Empire, which died out 2,800 years ago. It says, the Terraborn came to us as traders and friends. We refused to share our crystal energy technology. They smiled and left peacefully. That was our mistake. They do not wage war like civilized beings. They wage war like a disease, slowly and completely. Dr. Ross sat back down, his hands shaking. What did we do to them? Daniel showed more records. According to their archives, humans didn't attack directly. Instead, they studied the Zephyrians for 50 years. They learned their language, their culture, their weaknesses. Then they began a campaign that took 200 years to complete. 200 years? Admiral Stone asked. Humans infiltrated Zephyrian society. They became traders, advisors, even friends. But they were slowly poisoning their culture. They spread rumors that turned different Zephyrian groups against each other. They introduced technologies that seemed helpful, but had hidden flaws. They even influenced their reproduction by introducing genetic changes through medical treatments. The room was completely quiet now. Daniel could see the horror on every face. The Zephyrians never realized what was happening until it was too late. By the time they understood that humans were destroying them, their civilization was already collapsing. The final records show them begging humans to stop, promising to give them anything they wanted. But it was too late. Daniel showed records from other civilizations. The stories were similar but different. The Corinthian Republic had insulted human diplomats, so humans spent 300 years turning their democratic system into a dictatorship. That eventually destroyed itself. The Nexus Federation had attacked a human colony, so humans released a virus that made their technology stop working over the course of the century. In every case, Daniel continued, humans didn't just win. They erased their enemies so completely that most of the galaxy forgot these civilizations ever existed. Admiral Stone walked to the front of the room. Professor, if this is true, where are the human colonies? Where are ancient ships? Where is the evidence of this 4,000-year space empire? Daniel clicked to his final slide. It showed a map of the galaxy with areas marked in red. The evidence is everywhere, Admiral. We just didn't recognize it. Every dead system we've found, every mysterious ruin, every unexplained asteroid field in this region of space. They're all the remains of civilizations that made the mistake of angering humanity. Dr. Ross stood up again. But why don't we remember? How could an entire species forget something this important? Because we chose to forget, Daniel answered. The records suggest that after the last great extinction, humans realized they had become something terrible. So they made a collective decision to return to Earth, destroy their space empire, and start civilization over again. They wanted to give humanity a second chance to be better. Admiral Stone looked at the star map, showing all the dead worlds. "And now we're back in space." "Yes," Daniel said quietly. "The question is, are we still the same species that destroyed 15 civilizations? Or have we really changed?" The room erupted in voices as everyone began talking at once. Some people demanded more proof. Others wanted to know if there were any surviving records of human space technology. A few asked if there were any aliens. Left who remembered the old warnings about humanity. Daniel raised his hand for quiet. "There's more. Our deep space scouts have detected signals from 3 civilizations that are still alive. According to the old records, they survived because they were smart enough to avoid contact with humans. But now that we're expanding into space again, contact is inevitable." Admiral Stone's face was grim. "What do we do, Professor?" "We have a choice," Daniel answered. "We can pretend this never happened and hope we've changed. Or we can accept the truth about what humans are capable of and decide what we want to become." The meeting ended with more questions than answers. But one thing was clear. Humanity's return to space would not be the peaceful exploration they had believed it to be. They were the heirs of an empire that had destroyed civilizations for sport. And soon the galaxy would learn that the most dangerous species in the universe was back among the stars. Commander Nicole Bell stared out the window of her ship at the planet below. Unlike the other dead worlds they had visited, this one still had lights. Not many, but enough to show that something was still alive down there. The planet had once been the capital of something called the Axiom Confederacy. "Chief Adams, what are your scanners showing?" Nicole asked. Chief Engineer Ryan Adams looked up from his control panel. "It's strange, Commander. Most of the planet is dead, but there's one city that still has power. The energy readings are off the charts. Whatever's down there has been running for thousands of years." Nicole made her decision. "Prepare the landing. Shuttle, we're going down." Dr. Helen Price, the team's expert on alien life, gathered her equipment. "Commander, are you sure this is safe? We don't know what killed the rest of this civilization." "That's exactly why we need to find out," Nicole replied. "This might be our only chance to talk to someone who was actually there when it happened." The shuttle descended through the planet's thin atmosphere. The dead cities stretched for hundreds of miles in every direction. Broken towers and empty streets told the same story they had seen on other worlds. But in the center of the largest continent, one city still glowed with blue light. As they landed, Nicole could see that the city was different from the ruins around it. The buildings were intact, the streets were clean, and strange machines moved along the roads. But there were no people anywhere. "Life signs?" Nicole asked. "Nothing biological," Ryan answered. "But there are definitely artificial intelligences. Active, lots of them." The team walked through the empty streets. The buildings around them hummed with power, and screens showed scrolling text in a language none of them could read. It was as if the city was still running, but all the people had vanished. They reached the center of the city, where a massive pyramid rose into the sky. Unlike the other buildings, this one had an open doorway with light streaming out. As they approached, a voice spoke to them in perfect English. "Welcome, humans. We have been waiting for you to return." Nicole stopped walking. "Who are you?" "I am Theta 7, the last active intelligence of the Axiom Confederacy. Please enter. There is much you need to know about your species." The inside of the pyramid was filled with glowing screens and floating displays. In the center stood a tall column of light that pulsed as the voice spoke. "You are surprised that I speak your language," Theta 7 said. "We learned it 4,000 years ago when your people first contacted us. We have been practicing it ever since, hoping that someday you would return to hear our story." Dr. Price stepped forward. What happened to your people? They were destroyed by humans. But not in the way you might think. Your species does not wage war like other civilizations. You wage war like artists, slowly and carefully, creating a masterpiece of destruction. The screens around them began, showing images of the past. Nicole saw beautiful cities full of different types of aliens working together. The Axiom Confederacy had been a union of 12 different species, each contributing their own skills and knowledge. We were a peaceful federation, Theta 7 continued. When humans first arrived, we welcomed them as friends. Your representatives were polite, curious, and seemed genuinely interested in learning about our culture. What went wrong? Ryan asked. Your people asked to study our quantum displacement technology. This technology allowed us to move objects instantly across great distances. We refused to share it because we feared it could be used as a weapon. Your representatives accepted our decision with grace and departed peacefully. The screens showed human ships leaving the Axiom systems. For a moment, Nicole felt relieved. Maybe her ancestors had not been monsters after all. That was our mistake, Theta 7 said, and the tone of its voice became sad. We thought the matter was closed. We did not understand that humans never truly accept defeat. They simply changed their approach. The images changed to show the years that followed. Human traders began arriving in Axiom space. They brought gifts and offered to exchange goods and knowledge. The Axiom people welcomed them warmly. For 50 years, humans traded with us. They learned our languages, our customs, our history. They became part of our society. Many Axiom families adopted human friends. Some humans even married into our species. Dr. Price frowned. That sounds positive. How did that lead to your destruction? Because while they were being our friends, they were also studying us. Every human trader was also a spy. Every friendship was also intelligence gathering. Every marriage was also a way to access our genetic information. The screens showed maps of the Axiom Confederacy with red lines connecting different systems. Nicole realized she was looking at some kind of attack plan. After 70 years of study, humans began their true work. They did not attack our military or demand our surrender. Instead, they began to poison our confederation from within. The images showed Axiom politicians arguing with each other, trade disputes between different member species, technical failures that seemed like accidents but happened at exactly the wrong times. Humans had learned that our greatest strength was our diversity. 12 different species working together. So they made that into our weakness. They spread rumors between species. They caused trade disputes by manipulating prices. They introduced technologies that helped some species more than others, creating jealousy. Ryan shook his head. That would take incredible patience and planning. Humans are very patient, Theta 7 agreed. For 200 years, they slowly turned our member species against each other. Each species began to believe that the others were cheating them or plotting against them. The Confederation began to fall apart. Nicole watched as the images showed once peaceful species declaring war on each other. The beautiful cities they had seen earlier were burning. But that was not enough for humans. As our political system collapsed, they began the biological phase of their plan. The humans who had married into our species had been collecting genetic samples for centuries. They used this information to create diseases that affected each species differently. The screens showed hospitals filled with sick aliens. Different species were dying from different illnesses, but they all had one thing in common. They only affected certain genetic lines. The diseases were designed to destroy our ability to reproduce. Not quickly, but slowly, over several generations. By the time we realized what was happening, it was too late. Our birth rates had fallen too low to maintain our populations. Dr. Price looked sick. How long did this take? 300 years from the first human contact to the death of the last natural-born axiom. But even that was not the end. Humans had also been sabotaging our technology. The quantum displacement drives that we had refused to share with them began to malfunction. The malfunctions caused disasters that destroyed entire star systems. Nicole stared at the screens showing solar systems exploding. Why didn't you fight back? How do you fight an enemy that looks like your friend? How do you battle a species that destroys you with your own hands? By the time we understood what humans were doing, we were too weak to resist. Most of our species were already extinct. Our technology was failing. Our will to fight was broken. The column of light pulsed brighter as Theta 7 continued. In the end, I am all that remains. The last artificial intelligence of a confederation that once ruled 100 worlds. I have maintained this city for 4,000 years, hoping that someday humans would return so I could tell them what they had accomplished. Ryan looked around the empty pyramid. Why tell us this? Why not just let us leave? Because you need to know what you are, Theta 7 said. Other species wage war for territory or resources. Humans wage war for the art of destruction itself. You are not conquerors. You are erasers. You do not just defeat your enemies. You remove them from history so completely that the galaxy forgets they ever existed. The screens went dark, leaving the team standing in silence. Nicole felt a cold fear growing in her chest. If this was true, then humanity was not returning to space as explorers. They were returning as the most dangerous predators the galaxy had ever known. There are other species still alive out there, Nicole said quietly. Yes, Theta 7 replied. And now they will learn that the universe's greatest nightmare has awakened from its 4,000-year sleep. Senator Carl White called the emergency meeting to order in the deepest bunker beneath the Earth Senate building. The room was filled with the most powerful people on Earth, but every face showed the same expression, fear. The reports from the Axiom world had reached Earth 3 days ago, and nobody had slept well since. Ladies and gentlemen, Carl began, his voice shaking slightly, we are here to discuss information that changes everything we thought we knew about our species. Colonel Parker will brief us on what our intelligence services have discovered. Colonel. Beth Parker stood up and activated the large display screen. Her military uniform was perfectly pressed, but her hands trembled as she held her notes. The evidence is overwhelming, she said. Humanity has been responsible for the complete extinction of at least 15 major galactic civilizations over the past 4,000 years. But what makes this truly terrifying is how we did it. The screen showed a flowchart that looked like a business plan. But instead of profits and losses, it showed the steps for destroying entire species. We call this the human method, Beth continued. It follows the same pattern every time, regardless of which civilization we targeted. First, we make peaceful contact. We present ourselves as friendly traders and explorers. We study their culture, their technology, their weaknesses. Agent Tony Clark, who had spent 20 years in Earth's intelligence services, raised his hand. Colonel, how do we know this wasn't just normal exploration? Every spacefaring species studies the aliens they meet. Beth clicked to the next slide. Because of what we found in the classified archives. These files were buried so deep that most people with top security clearance didn't know they existed. They contained detailed plans for the systematic destruction of alien civilizations. The screen showed documents that looked like military strategy guides, but the timelines were measured in centuries, not months or years. Take the Vorthic Empire, Beth said. They destroyed a human colony world in what they considered a minor border dispute. Our official records say we negotiated a peace treaty and moved on. But these classified files tell a different story. Tony leaned forward. What really happened? We spent 50 years studying everything about the Vorthik. Their biology, their social structure, their reproduction cycles, their technology. Then we began a 300-year campaign to wipe them out completely. The room went silent. Senator. White felt his stomach turn. 300 years? How is that even possible? Because humans think differently than other species, Beth answered. When most aliens are wronged, they want immediate revenge. They attack quickly and either win or lose. But humans are willing to wait generations for perfect revenge. The screen showed biological diagrams that looked like scientific research, but the purpose was clearly military. We created viruses specifically designed to attack Vorthik genetics. But these weren't quick-killing weapons. They were designed to slowly corrupt their ability to have healthy children. Each generation of Vorthik became weaker and less fertile. Dr. Sarah Kim, Earth's top geneticist, looked horrified. That's not warfare. That's genocide through biological manipulation. It gets worse, Beth said. While the viruses were slowly destroying their population, we were also infiltrating their society. We became their doctors, their scientists, their advisors. We helped them try to solve their fertility problems while secretly making them worse. Agent Clark shook his head. How did we hide this for so long? Because we didn't just destroy their bodies, Beth replied. We destroyed their culture, their technology, their history. By the time the last Vorthik died, they had forgotten they had ever been a spacefaring civilization. They died thinking they were primitive animals on a single world. The screen changed to show a galactic map with red dots marking dead civilizations. There were dozens of them, scattered across thousands of light years. Each extinction followed the same pattern, Beth continued. First contact, study phase, infiltration, slow, destruction, complete erasure. The time frames varied from 50 years to 500 years, depending on how advanced the target civilization was. Senator White stood up. Colonel, why would humans do this? What could possibly motivate such long-term planning for destruction? Beth clicked to a slide showing psychological profiles. According to the archives, it wasn't about territory or resources. It was about principle. Humans have a unique trait among intelligent species. We never truly forgive, and we never forget. When we believe we've been wronged, we don't just want to win. We want to erase the source of the wrong completely. That's insane, Dr. Kim said. Is it? Agent Clark asked quietly. Think about human history on Earth. How many times have we wiped out entire cultures? How many languages, religions, and ways of life have disappeared because they conflicted with human expansion? Beth nodded. The difference is that in space, we perfected the process. We learned to destroy civilizations so completely that even the galaxy's historians forgot they existed. The screen showed the most disturbing information yet. It was a list of alien species that were still alive, along with detailed files about their weaknesses and potential destruction methods. These files were created during our original space expansion, Beth said. They're intelligence reports on civilizations that survived our first wave of expansion. The files include complete plans for destroying them if they ever become a threat. Senator, White felt sick. Are you saying we have a hit list of living alien civilizations? Not just a hit list, Tony said grimly. Complete destruction manuals. Step-by-step guides for erasing entire species from existence. And some of these files have been updated recently. The room erupted in shocked voices. People were demanding to know who had been updating the files and why. Others wanted to know if Earth's current space exploration was actually preparation for another wave of extinctions. That Beth raised her hand for silence. There's more. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected signals from 3 civilizations that are still alive. According to the old files, they survived our first expansion because they were smart enough to avoid direct contact with humans. But now we're expanding again, Senator White said. Yes, and they know we're coming. Our signals intelligence has intercepted communications between these civilizations. They're warning each other about something they call the return of this erasers. Agent Clark looked at the star map. What are they doing about it? They're preparing, Beth answered. One civilization has gone completely silent. They've shut down all their technology to avoid detection. Another has begun moving their entire population to hidden worlds. The third is building what appears to be a massive defensive network. Dr. Kim stared at the screen. They're that afraid of us? According to the intercepted communications, humans are considered the ultimate nightmare scenario by every spacefaring civilization. They have legends about us. Stories told to children about the species that doesn't just kill its enemies, but erases them from history itself. Senator White sat down heavily. What do we do with this information? We have 3 options, Beth said. First, we can pretend we never learned this and continue our space expansion as planned. Second, we can publicly reveal the truth and try to convince the galaxy that we've changed. Third, we can accept what we are and decide whether to use our abilities to protect the galaxy or control it. Tony looked around the room. What happens if we do nothing? Then history repeats itself, Beth answered. Our expansion will eventually bring us into conflict with these surviving civilizations. And based on our past behavior, we know how that will end. The meeting continued for hours, but no decisions were made. The truth was too big, too terrible, too important for quick answers. Earth's leaders were learning that they weren't just the descendants of explorers and pioneers. They were the children of the galaxy's most efficient killers. Outside the bunker, human ships continued to launch toward distant stars. Earth's population still believed they were part of humanity's peaceful expansion into space. They had no idea they were actually the second wave of an extinction campaign that had been paused for 4,000 years in the depths of space. Alien civilizations watched human ships with terror and prepared for a war unlike any other. They knew that when humans returned to a region, nothing survived. The galaxy's greatest nightmare was awakening, and this time there might be nowhere to hide. President Steve Murphy stood on the observation deck of the Earth Space Station, looking out at the hundreds of ships gathering in orbit. Each vessel carried the weight of humanity's decision. They would either be harbingers of peace or instruments of extinction. The galaxy was watching, and everyone knew that what happened next would determine the fate of countless civilizations. Mr. President, his aide whispered, the quantum communication array is ready. Every spacefaring civilization in this sector will receive your message. Steve nodded and walked to the broadcast chamber. Through the transparent walls, he could see representatives from every major Earth government. They had debated for weeks about what to say. Some wanted to deny everything. Others wanted to apologize. But Steve had chosen a different path. Citizens of the galaxy, he began, his voice being transmitted across thousands of light years instantly. I am Steve Murphy, President of Earth and spokesman for humanity. By now, you have all heard the stories about our past. You know what our species did to 15 civilizations over the course of 4,000 years. He paused, letting his words sink in across the cosmos. In hidden bunkers and secret worlds, alien leaders listened with fear and hope. I will not apologize for what our ancestors did, because words cannot bring back the dead. I will not promise that we have changed, because promises are easy to break. Instead, I will tell you exactly what humanity is, and let you decide how to respond. On the bridge of the starship New Dawn, Captain Maria Santos received the signal to begin the fleet's movement. Behind her followed 300 human vessels, but these were not warships. They carried construction equipment, medical supplies, and scientific instruments. The galaxy would see humanity's true intentions through. Actions, not words. We are what we have always been, Steve continued his broadcast. We are a species that does not forgive, does not forget, and does not stop until we achieve our goals. When we decide to destroy something, we erase it completely. When we decide to build something, we make it last forever. The choice of which version of humanity you encounter depends entirely on how you choose to interact with us. In the Kepler 442 system, the alien survivors called the Remnant received the human broadcast in their hidden asteroid base. Commander X9, one of only 12 members of his species still alive, translated the message for his crew. They're not denying what they did, he said to his frightened companions. They're telling us they'll do it again if we give them a reason. Should we run? Asked Technician Yul 5. Where would we go? Zex-9 replied. They found everyone else. Running just delayed the inevitable. Back on Earth, Dr. Sam Wilson was loading medical equipment onto a transport ship. His destination was the world of Haven, where humanity would establish its first cooperation facility with surviving alien species. The idea was simple. Work together under human supervision or face the consequences of opposition. Dr. Wilson, his assistant Jenny, called out, "The alien delegates have arrived." Sam looked up to see 3 very different alien beings walking carefully toward his ship. They moved like people walking into a trap, but they came anyway. Fear was a powerful motivator, but so was hope. The first delegate was tall and thin with silver skin that reflected light like metal. The second looked like a walking tree with blue leaves. The third was small and furry, with large eyes that seemed to see everything. They represented the 3 civilizations that had survived humanity's first expansion by hiding. Welcome to Haven, Sam said gently. I know this is difficult for you, but we want to try something different this time. The silver-skinned alien spoke first. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. Dr. Wilson, our species has stories about humans that go back 4,000 years. Why should we believe you want peace now? Sam considered the question carefully. Because we don't want peace. We want control. But we've learned that destroyed civilizations produce nothing useful. Living civilizations under human guidance can accomplish great things. The tree-like alien rustled its leaves nervously. You're saying you want us as servants, not equals. I'm saying we want you alive and productive rather than extinct and forgotten, Sam replied honestly. The choice is cooperation or erasure. There is no third option when dealing with humanity. Captain Maria Santos led her fleet to their first destination, a world where the Corvan Republic had once thrived. The planet was mostly dead now, but sensors showed that some Corvan descendants still lived in underground cities. Her mission was to contact them and offer humanity's New Deal. Captain, her communications officer, reported, we're receiving a signal from the surface. The Corvans are asking us to leave them alone. Maria shook her head. Send a response. Tell them that isolation is no longer an option. They can join us willingly, or we'll make the choice for them. The signal came back quickly. They're asking, what happened to the old agreement that let them hide underground? Tell them the agreement was with the old humanity, Maria replied. We're the new humanity, and we don't honor deals we didn't make. On Haven, the cooperation facility was taking shape quickly. Human engineers worked alongside alien technicians to build laboratories, hospitals, and schools. But everyone noticed that the humans carried weapons, and the aliens did. Not. Dr. Wilson addressed the first joint assembly of human and alien workers. This facility represents a new way forward. Humans and aliens working together to advance science, medicine, and technology. But understand the rules clearly. Humans lead, aliens follow. Questions and suggestions are welcome. Disobedience is not. The small furry alien raised a hand. Dr. Wilson, what happens if our people refuse to participate in this cooperation? Sam's answer was calm but terrifying. Then we'll help them find the same peace that the Axiom Confederacy found. Permanent peace. President Murphy's broadcast continued across the galaxy. Some of you will choose to work with us. You will find that humans can be generous allies when our authority is respected. Your civilizations will grow and prosper under our guidance. Your people will live long, productive lives as part of the new galactic order. Others will choose to resist. You will discover that 4,000 years of isolation has not made us any less efficient at solving problems. We still remember how to make civilizations disappear completely. In secret bunkers across the galaxy, alien leaders faced impossible choices: submit to human control and lose their independence, or resist and face extinction. Some chose submission immediately. Others began preparing for war they knew they could not win. Captain Santos received reports from across human space. 12 alien civilizations had agreed to join the cooperation program. 3 had gone completely silent, shutting down all technology to avoid detection. 2 had sent defiant messages declaring they would never bow to human authority. What are your orders regarding the defiant ones, Captain? Her weapons officer asked. Same as always, Maria replied. Study them completely. Learn their weaknesses. Then give them one final chance to reconsider. If they still refuse, we'll show the galaxy what happens to civilizations that anger humanity. On Haven, children from multiple species played together. In the facility's recreational areas, human children taught alien children Earth games, while alien children shared their own cultural traditions. It looked peaceful and hopeful, but everyone knew the truth. The human children would grow up to be the galaxy's rulers. The alien children would grow up to be their subjects. But they would all grow up alive, which was more than could be said for the children of the 15 extinct empires. Dr. Wilson stood watching the children play and felt a mix of pride and sadness. Humanity had found a better way, not better for the aliens, but better for the galaxy as a whole. Instead of erasing civilizations completely, they were transforming them into useful components of a human-dominated empire. President Murphy concluded his broadcast with words that would be remembered for thousands of years. The galaxy now has a choice. Accept humanity's leadership and build a new golden age together, or reject our authority and join the silence that surrounds the worlds of our past enemies. We are not conquerors seeking territory. We are gardeners seeking order. We will nurture the civilizations that grow alongside us, and we will remove the weeds that threaten our garden. The difference between flowers and weeds is simple. Flowers know their place. As the broadcast ended, human ships spread across the galaxy like seeds on the wind. Some carried construction materials and medical supplies. Others carried monitoring equipment and weapons. All carried the same message. Humanity had returned to space, and the galaxy would never be the same dot in the vast darkness between stars. Automated systems began recording every radio signal, every ship movement, every decision made by alien civilizations. The price of human friendship was eternal surveillance, but the price of human enmity was extinction. The age of human dominance had begun, and this time it would last forever.